Hello everyone, my name is Jenny Kings. You are welcome to my channel. If today is your first time here, you're welcome. Please hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you for checking in once again. So today, we'll be learning how to draft a full-scale basic bodice pattern. The measurement we will use for this pattern drafting is displayed on the screen. Now, as you can see my pattern paper, I have already taken my border line. The line you are seeing here is a border line of 1 inch. I measured 1 inch downwards and I connected it with a straight ruler up to this point. Then the vertical line you are seeing here is gotten by measuring the width of my bodice. The width of the bodice is gotten by dividing the biggest part of your body measurement. For this tutorial, the biggest measurement I have is the hip measurement, which is 32. So I divided 32 into 2 and that gave me 16. I added 2 inches allowance and that gave me 18 inches. So I measured 18 inches from this edge to this line, and that's the vertical line you are seeing. For the line down here, it was gotten from the length of my blouse. So you take your measurement and know the length of the blouse you want to make. For this tutorial, the length is 23 inches. So from here to here is 23 inches and the width is 18 inches. Now the next step we are going to take now is to divide the pattern paper into 2. And one side will be our front and the other side our back. So since we have 18 inches as the width, if you divide 18 inches into 2, what we will have is 9 inches. So we'll measure 9 inches from this end and mark. We'll measure 9 inches. Then after measuring, we'll connect the point with our straight ruler. After connecting, we now have the 2 points for our bodies, and this side will be our front and here will be our back. The next measurement we are going to take is the back length. From the measurement displayed on the screen, the front waist is 17 inches while the back waist is 16 inches, which means that the back is 1 inch shorter than the front. So we'll come to the part we've chosen for the back and we'll measure 1 inch up. Then we'll connect with a straight ruler. This automatically becomes our back length. The next measurement we are going to take is to take the waist length. For the front, I have 17 inches as my front waist length. So I'll take 17 inches from this upper part up to here. Then I'll connect it. My front waist is now taken. The next thing is to take my back waist, and from the measurement I have, the shoulder to waist for the back is 16 inches. So I'll measure from the upper part down. 16 inches. 16 inches. Then I'll connect the point with my ruler. So, which means we now have our front and the back waist. So the next measurement we will take is the shoulder measurement. The full shoulder measurement we have is 12. So what we are going to do is to divide 12 into 2 and that gives us 6. We'll mark 6 here. Then we'll come down 1.5 inches from that point. This will be the shoulder slope. We'll move over to the back and we'll take the shoulder measurement as well, which is 6 inches. Then we'll come down by 1 inch. So for the back, 1 inch is our shoulder slope, and for the front, 1.5 inches is our shoulder slope. The next thing to do is to get our neck measurement. For this tutorial, I will divide the bust measurement into 12, and that gives me 2.5 inches. So I will come to the front and measure 2.5 inches as my neck width, and for the depth, I'll measure 2.5 inches. Then I'll connect it with my curve ruler. After this, move over to the back and take the 2.5 inches width for the neck and the depth for this bodice will be 1 inch. Then I'll connect it with my curve ruler. So I now have the neck for the front and the back. The next step to take is to use my straight ruler and connect from the neck to that point we mark for the shoulder slope, and I will also do the same for the back. So our shoulder is ready. So now we are going to determine our chest length, our chest line. To get our chest line, we have to divide our bust measurement into 6. The bust measurement I have here is 30, and if I divide 30 into 6, I'll have 5 inches. Then I'll add 1.5 inches to it, and that gives me 6.5 inches. So the next thing I will do is to come here to that point of shoulder slope for the back and mark that 6.5 inches. And after marking it, I will move my tape rule to that borderline and measure from the borderline to that point I mark and measure what's there, and what I have is 7.5 inches. So now I'll measure the 7.5 inches from the borderline down for both the front and the back. After measuring, I'll connect it with my straight ruler. And this line now is our chest line. So in order to get our armhole measurement, we'll come to this chest line and measure our shoulder measurement, which is 6 inches. We'll measure the 6 inches. Then we'll connect that point to the shoulder. We'll repeat the same thing at the back. And this will be the armhole line. So before we put our armhole, let's measure our shoulder to bust measurement. For this tutorial, the shoulder to bust measurement I have is 9 inches. So I'll measure from that borderline to the point of 9 inches. And I'll connect it with straight ruler. I'll only take this measurement at the front bodies because we only have bust at the front. After this, the next thing we are going to do is to measure our bust take our bust measurement. So to do that, the bust measurement I have for this tutorial is 13 inches. So I'll divide 13 inches into 4, and that gives me 7.5 inches. So I'll come here and measure from the center front to the side 7.5 inches and mark. I'll move over to the back and take the same measurement, 7.5 inches. The next measurement I will take is the waist measurement. The waist measurement I have for this tutorial is 24 inches. And when I divide 24 inches into 4, that gives me 6 inches. Then I will add extra 1.5 inches. That will be my dart allowance. And when I add 1.5 inches to 6 inches, I will have 7.5 inches. I will mark it here for the front. Before we move over to the back, let's take our hip measurement for the front. The hip circumference I have is 32 inches. And if I divide 32 inches into 4, that will give me 8 inches. So I'll measure 8 inches here and mark. Then I'll connect the points with my ruler. I've connected the points. Now let's move over to the back. Before we take the measurements for the back, let's first of all tighten the back. This back tightening will help to eliminate zip bulge. So in order to tighten the back, we measure 1/2 inch inwards at the waist point for the center back. And when you measure that 1/2 inch, move the tightening up to the neckline. So the next thing to do is to also measure 5.5 inches at the hip measurement and extend this my back tightening to that point this way. So I've tightened the back. The next measurement to take now is our waist measurement. Our waist measurement is 24, and 24 divided by 4 is 6 inches plus 1.5 inches, which is 7.5 inches. So I'll measure the 7.5 inches after the back tightening. Remember that after the back tightening. Then I will also take my hip measurement, which is 8 inches here. Remember that this place is no longer part of the bodice because our back bodice ended at this point. So I'll use my ruler to connect the point. So the next thing we are going to do now is to take our armhole measurement. In order to insert our armhole, we'll come to the front and measure 3 inches up. And we'll measure 3 inches up. We'll measure 0.75 inch inwards and mark. We move over to the back and measure what we have here. We have 6.5 inches. Then we divide 6.5 inches into 2, and that will give us 3.25. Then at that point of 3.25, we'll go in by 1/2 inch. So for the front, you go in by 0.75, and for the back, go in by 0.5 inches. Then we use our straight ruler to connect the point to the shoulder tip. After connecting, we'll use our armhole curve to connect it to the chest line, like so. And by so doing, our armhole for the bodice is ready. The next thing we are going to do now is to insert our dart. The bust span we have is 7 inches. So we'll divide 7 inches into 2, and that gives us 3.5 inches. So I will measure the 3.5 inches down. And connect the point with my straight ruler. Before we open up the dart, let's move to the back and get our dart line. Since we have 3.5 inches as our bust span, what we are going to do is to measure 3.5 inches after this back tightening mark. Then we'll go to the main line and measure what we have there. If you measure 3.5 inches, measure what we have there, it should be 4 inches. So we'll measure that 4 inches from the chest line down to the hem and connect with our straight ruler. And this serves as our dart line. Now let's move over to the front. Let's take our dart. The dart allowance we added while drafting this bodice was 1.5 inches. So we are going to divide the 1.5 inches in between this line, which means we have 0.75 inches here and 0.75 inches. Then we'll measure from our waist down. We'll measure 4.5 inches. Then we'll connect the dart to the waistline using our straight ruler. Like so. After connecting, we move over to the bust point and connect the dart directly to the bust point. Now there are two methods of connecting the dart. Sometimes you come down 1 inch from the bust point before connecting your dart, but for this particular tutorial I connected the dart at that bust point. Now for the back, we'll also open up the dart with that same 1.5 inches, which is 0.75 inches here and 0.75 inches. Then we'll come down from the waist by 5 inches and connect the dart. Now, because of this back tightening we did at the back, we are going to come down 1 inch from the chest line and connect the dart to that area. So we are done with our waist dart. Now the next thing to do is to insert our bust dart, and to do that we are going to measure the difference between our front and back bodies. For this tutorial I have 1 inch as the difference between the front and back. Then I will come to this bust point and measure 1 inch down. Then using my straight ruler I will connect from the nipple point to that 1 inch I marked, and this is our bust dart, and this is all for the full scale basic bodice pattern. Now, as you can see, the front is longer than the back. In order to make them equal, you will close the bust dart, and once you close the bust dart, they will be the same thing. So now let's cut out the bodice. First of all, I'll cut through the straight line. When I cut through the straight line, I'll close this bust dart. And when you close the bust dart, most times you find out that this line will not align. So what you have to do is to use your straight ruler and blend the line once more. You blend the line, then you use your paper tape to close the bust dart. And now cut it out. So I'm done cutting, and this is our full scale basic bodice pattern with waist and bust dart. Thank you very much for watching this tutorial. Please like, share and subscribe. See you next time. Bye.